Yeah, I wanted to know, how does the casting director work with the movie director then? With the casting director, is that preliminary auditions and then they pass it on to the director to make additional decisions? Or
I don't think that microphone is around.
Usually the director will give a cast breakdown to the casting director. It'll have usually just a few words. They'll give that to agents. Agents will pick through their stable and send in the people they think most, or they'll send in, usually that's why they're in 5-minute slots. They'll send in maybe 10 from each different agency. You're put on film. That film usually goes to the director. They go through that and pick from your film, your slate, on who they want to call back.
Well, it kind of varies. I have had experiences just like that. But I think the one that I'm most used to working is, me and the casting director would actually, break down the script, what kind of looks I'll be going for and things like that. And then they will put together a whole list of people whom, they have casting directors. They don't usually hold open auditions. They have to know you. They have to know your agent, either your manager or somebody. And they will put it together and go, I know these people. They're really good. Blah blah blah. Let's call them in for an audition. And then I would be in there, and then I'll take a look at it. And then from there it's like a whole complicated process because I might like this person and that person, but then you put those two together on the second callback and there's no chemistry at all. And the actor that you like the least might have the best chemistry with somebody, so it's a really one big shuffling block and all that. And if your schedules meet, that's another problem. Oscar.
I just wanted to stress the importance of the script supervisor, although she's not here and you took her place, because I've had a lot of experiences where I'm just really nitpicky about those kind of things, and there have been scenes where it's a couple who's single and they're talking about getting married, and then you notice he's already wearing a wedding ring, and you're like, what? And then with the glasses thing, I worked on a project where the character was supposed to be wearing glasses for the first half of the movie, and then the second half, no glasses, and then they switched directors halfway through the movie, and the second director was shooting one of the earlier scenes, and she says, take your glasses off, and I said, well, my character wears glasses for the whole opening of the movie, and she goes, well, I'm tired of seeing the reflection of the camera in your glasses, so we're going to change that. And I actually argued that, and I was like, no, I think the character needs to keep the glasses. It goes with the continuity, and I literally got fired for speaking my mind on that. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that's a real serious thing, and people do notice those things.
So Elska turns to producing her own movie after that.
Perry, I'm a character actor. I never get to play myself. I get to play vampires, I get to play people from other centuries, I get to play roles of Mexicans in Mexico, in Spanish. I've done Italian roles in Italy, speaking Italian. And nobody ever wants me to just be myself. I've got to do dialects and be from whatever country that they want. So as a character actor, I think it's different than the personality that you're describing. To be a lead actor who's a character, a personality, and plays himself all the time. I never had that opportunity.
I think that's where you're not looking at it closely, in my opinion. I think whether you're playing a vampire slayer, or a priest, or anything, or a hobo, or anything like that, it is still your interpretation of that character. That is different. Acting is when somebody takes away everything about themselves, and they come up with, you know that when they start overacting and they start, talking in weird ways. I've seen a couple of your work. You talk pretty close to what you're talking about right now. It is still your interpretation of the character. Yeah, that is still you. And you know what? When directors hire you, I can guarantee you, most of the time they're thinking, you know what? He can play that. They're not looking at, you know, somebody else. I want you to play this or play that. They're going to go, just do your stuff and get it done. And, you know, for you, you know, generally people who are more matured tend to be more self-conscious about themselves, which is great. I also think that a lot of people who are just starting out in, you know, trying to be an actor, you know, they are in some ways acting too hard. And my deal is, you know, you don't have to. Just be yourself, be your unique individual, and, you know, respect the fact that, you know, you are an interesting person. I know this sounds bad, but you gotta be quite interesting if you want to become an actor. There's some masochistic, you know, thing that comes with it for sure. But yeah. Yes, Lily.
I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is you're unique, but be authentic.
You're unique, everyone's unique, obviously. We have all different DNA. But it's being authentic. It's not pretending to be something. I can speak full sentences, I swear.
No, I totally get what you mean. You know, being authentic is definitely very important for an actor. You know, I think even for me as a director, I'm always looking for subtext. You know, when you're saying a line on the screen, I'm not looking at what that line is, I'm looking at your intention behind that line. You know, sometimes even the body language as well. You know, what is it? I mean, if a scene opens up in an elevator with two people in there, okay? And, you know, if they're holding hands, you know, they're a couple. But if they're standing, you know, if they're standing far apart from each other, then you know that couple has a problem. You know, body language, placement, everything does count. You want to be authentic in everything. Every word has a subtext. How many different ways are there to say, for example, I love you? You can say it from sincerity to the point that you can say it to hatred. You know, lying, basically. There are many, many ways to say that. You know, there are many ways to deliver lines and all that, but ultimately you have to draw from your own experiences. Again, comes down to, you're right, being authentic and being you as well. When you're drawing out from a real experience that you can personally feel, then whatever you're saying in that, there is a, you know, something genuine in there. And you know, the camera captures it. The camera sees it. We're in close-ups, we see everything. I have this really crazy philosophy. I feel like, and you know, a lot of people, maybe this is just a belief or faith. I don't think it's true, but I like to think it is. I believe that all of us have auras, you know. We walk around, you know, we have invisible auras that, you know, psychics can see and all that. And basically auras are made out of light. And you've seen aural photographies and things like that. I like to believe in some metaphysical way, spiritual way in my approach to filmmaking, that a camera lens ultimately captures light as well, whether visible or invisible. So it captures your aura as well. So how many times have you watched scenes where you're like, you don't believe the characters, but then there are times when you're like, I actually believe that. It could be the same lines. It's just how the actor takes from their personal experiences and puts it into the subtext to be used. And that is authenticity. Now it could be, you know, the person's sad and all that, and you know, they're supposed to be crying in that scene. But you know, it's just not coming out. And then that would be my job as a director to go out there and say, okay, you know, right now you're crying like as though, you know, you receive a bad grade from school. That's not what I'm looking for. Try like you're crying because your dog just died, kind of thing. You know, there are different levels of crying. And then for the actor, they're like, oh, wait a minute, okay, I can tap into that. Or maybe the actor cannot tap into that, and we'll figure out something what made them cry recently. Maybe breaking up with a girlfriend or something, and I was like, okay, try tapping on that. And then let's see. Now the audience can't tell the difference what he's crying about, but their crying is authentic. And I think every actor needs to find that connection. you know, and with the help of the director, they can, you know, that's ultimately the main goal in making movies and, you know, showing emotions.
Ro, I've got a question for you. One of the things I notice on set quite a bit is that sound checks. A lot of times when they're doing sound checks, they're like, the audio is like, give me a sound check. Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then they go to record, and it comes out like that!
Right, yeah.
Is there something that you could kind of tips or inform us how we can fix that?
Well, I think I touched on it earlier, is basically be consistent in your rehearsal, and that's what I meant by consistency. It's also the volume of your voice, not just the movements of your head, your body, wherever you do it, but that, exactly. If the line starts out soft, and by the end he's yelling, do that in rehearsal. Because we need to do this, and then do this when that's happening. So it's just that, consistency. There is really no trick to it. It's just rehearsal like any other type of rehearsal, basically.
I think I can speak loud enough, maybe. But my question maybe is for Barbara and Rogelio. What can an actor do to get to minimize the number of mistakes? To minimize maybe the number of mistakes that they might make when using different kinds of microphones or different sound challenges that come up on set.
To check with the sound. To check with the sound guy.
Do what they say.
You know. To ask questions.
Okay.
Use his expertise, use his knowledge. Can you hear me? Does it need
Yes.
to be lower? Does it need to be louder? Am I mic'd correctly to get the sound that you're looking for?
Okay.
And that's done in rehearsal. And then, as he said, yes, to be consistent. So how do you find that spontaneity in each take and bring that authenticity of your character and be consistent when the script supervisor is saying to you, no, you turned to the left last time.
Right.
You must always turn to the left. Don't change that. So you have to be very aware and to have all of your faculties right there so that you can give the director what he wants and have those kind of experiences at your fingertips and be able to tap into that and be consistent with that, but yet still staying in the moment of it and making each one unique. The juggling act.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, consistency, and we don't want the actor to be limited with their creativity and what they're going to do in that take. Like Perry was saying, you want to be authentic. You want to give something of yourself, and we don't want you worrying about, am I going to sound right? I mean, if we did the rehearsal properly, you should be fine. The boom operator will adjust if there is some slight change in what you were doing earlier. It's not going to be the end of the world. You know, it's just, it sounds better when you're on axis with the mic. It sounds better here than it does right over here. Am I right? It's the same thing. So we want to get the full, clear presence of your voice, again, just to get it to sound better. But that's pretty much it, consistency.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I sort of have a question for you, for sound. How come, I mean, there's nothing that annoys me more than seeing a boom in the shot in a finished film.
Right.
Is that the script supervisor, the continuity person? Who's supposed to catch that?
Is there somebody on set that could help? I mean, is there somebody on set who's looking at it?
Touching on the subject, even though it doesn't apply specifically to actors, but I think one thing in indie films, also being the sound guy, a lot of times people don't really plan things. I've done a few projects where I might be standing in a corner talking to somebody, and they're getting ready to do the shot, and nobody else in the production actually bothered to say, we need the sound up here. So I think that's something maybe that you guys can touch on, the necessary coordination between you and the director and everybody else that's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody being on the same page is going to make things flow much easier. I mean, communication, it sounds so basic, but yes, you need someone saying, all right, we're ready for this shot, and of course, I lost my train of thought, but basically, yeah, you want to be there and just be ready for the shot. I don't always sit there and wait for it. I bug the directors. You want to hear that one here? Okay. Yeah, I'm on them. I'm like, okay, what are we doing next? Who's going to be doing what? What's going on? I work directly with the DP. I tell them, what's your shot going to be? Show me where am I in the shot, and I'm going to get as close to the edge where I can be, you know, to get the better sound. Now tell them, when am I in? Am I in? Am I okay? Then I'll back up a bit. And I'm directly with the DP more than anything. You know, the camera guy's going to know exactly. It's great when they have monitors where I can see, let's say we have 1 or 2 extra monitors where I can see how the shot is composed, especially when you're working with DSLR with a tiny camera, you can't see anything. So I rely on working with the DP when it comes to that. Just tell me where I'm at, how close I can get, tell me when I'm in. Simple as that.
I think, yeah, usually how, you know, on sets we do it is, especially on my sets, you know, we'll definitely have the AD come up, and there's only the actors, DP, assistant director, and a production designer on set. And the director is going to work with the actors, the blocking for the particular scene. You're going to work out all your problems with the director. Maybe going to that side of the room just doesn't feel right to you. You know, things like that. You work it all out. And as you're working, there's a production assistant, you know, putting your marks on the floor and things like that. And then after that, you clear the actors out to finish up their makeup. Sound guy and the DP comes in, check on the lights, and, you know, production design finalizes everything. And then, you know, by the time your actors come, hit your marks. Cannot stress how important it is to hit your marks, especially in bigger film productions when each of your characters have their own dedicated lights. For a smaller production, it is not such a big deal because you generally have one fill light, maybe a couple of keys and a bit of backlight, you're fine. You know, you miss your couple of marks, you're okay. But, you know, here we're talking about, you know, possibly 3 lights on you, 15 flags around, you know, just for one actor. And if you want to change your mark, that's probably about half an hour to just move everything to adjust to, you know, what you have. So blocking is very important. Figuring out where you want to go. It's not only for the sound guy and all that. You know, and we, you know, we definitely have to work together. Sometimes we have issues like leather floating, your favorite. Jewelry. You must love that. All over the place. You know? Yeah.
Silk.
Yes.
Silk and lavaliers don't go well together.
No. Yeah. Piss. I mean. Yeah, plastic. Any more? Yes.
Barbara, when do you offer classes, or when do you do coaching? If there are people here that are interested, how would they pursue that?
I taught classes for a secondary school that was in business here for 4 or 5 years, 5, 6 years, I don't know. They've since gone bankrupt. And I personally like to do one-on-one coaching. I think that's the best way. If actors are trying to save money, I'll gladly take like 2.
Is there an email address or a website to go to express an interest?
Yeah, I have some business cards here. They're actually massage cards. Because I'm also a massage therapist. But my email address is on there. Contact me through there. It's also, you can go on IMDb and put my name in there, my resume, and my email address is on my resume. And my IMDb site. So, there's that.
I have a question. Barbara mentioned this, but Harry, if you want to add anything. I've been told by 2 different coaches about concerning auditions. Obviously, we have to know our lines for when we're filming on set. But for our auditions, I've been told we should never memorize, because if we forget a line, we'll look like a fool. Or if, and the other coach said, you should always memorize your lines for an audition so you know what to be like on set. So I'm trying to figure out if it's different for each person, each audition, or if you should. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes,
if there's
absolutely.
one set, or if it's 2 different?
A lot of times it is a director's prerogative, but if you don't know the lines, you haven't read the full script, you don't have the full picture, you've just got your scene to make up the best you can. Being very familiar with, but not having it rote memory, usually you don't have the time to do that. But if you, especially if it's a cold read, a lot of times you're going to get that. You just want to know where to hold your script so that your eyes aren't always down. You want to be as familiar with it as possible. to get it, but it isn't so much in the words. It's about the intention. The last audition, well, not the last audition, but the big film that I got, the Francis Ford Coppola thing, the Walter Salles, he never said cut to me. I held that moment for, it seemed like 5 minutes. And it was, the script, it looked like a featured extra. And it managed to turn into everything an actor, you know, prays for, that, oh, he's going to give me lines and he's going to mic me, and he did. He loved me. He loved that and held that moment forever. And it didn't have any, you know, it had like, give me a buck. You know, that was the line. You know? No makeup, no memorization. It was perfect for an actor, for me. You know, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about what I look like. And I was depressed, and I was crying anyway, so it was perfect for the, you know, the hokey woman who was in the depression. So, but it's the intention behind it. It's not so much in the words. And if you're worried so much about what you're saying, you're not going to be honest, and you're not going to be truthful. So I would have it close if you need to gaze at it and then look and then give your line to the camera. Yeah, look at it and then give it what you need. So it's not buried in the script, but you're also not so worried about the lines that you can't be honest and you can't be who you are to do the part. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Have anything to add to that?
No, I totally agree with you. I think, you know, ultimately, I have hired actors just on cold reads. In fact, I can easily spot an actor who, you know, prepares too much. And sometimes you just throw a monkey wrench in it and just go, well, give me this character and all that. And it's nothing like the script, or not even the character that I want. But, you know, for me, it's just saying, all right, if I throw a monkey wrench at you, let's see what happens. And I can tell you a lot of people who prepare too much collapse and break down. How is that disastrous for a director and from a producer's point of view? Is that we're afraid that an actor is, you know, just before our film is going to prepare so much and blah, blah, blah. And it's not what we want. Then what? Can't change it. They collapse and crumble on set. We're screwed. They're screwed. Everybody, you know. It's really tricky. So just be, you know, very careful about preparing too much. A good tip I like to give to a lot of, you know, my friends, you know, when they're going to an audition is, I say, take out all the punctuation marks. Take everything, all of that out. Because when you start to read, you know, those words about punctuation, a little bit more of your voice is going to come out. Because then you're interpreting how this is going to be said. So, you know, you might want to use it. I've known a lot of my actor friends who used it, and, you know, it works amazing. They come out and they're natural and all that. Sometimes you know, their character may not be right for the role, but trust me, you know, I'll be like, oh, okay, at least I know they can do it. If there's ever a role, you know, I will call them up. I actually have an entire feature film I shot, actually with John Esslinger in 2008. I casted the whole entire film just with actors I know how they act, how they perform in the auditions, the ones that I remember. And, you know, that's, I mean, it does work out. You'll be surprised. We remember.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, you've been sort of nosing around about this. I think Barbara mentioned it earlier about having prepared monologues. I prefer doing cold readings myself, but I have a few monologues. But it almost seems crazy to me to work so hard on a monologue and then take it, and it may not fit what you're, you know, trying to do in a script as a director, or, you know, you're a coach, say you have anyway, you're sort of talking around this subject. Should we really have prepared monologues or not?
What if they ask you for it and you don't have it?
Does anybody ever ask for one?
I asked.
Yeah, they do.
One of the things from the castings that I've done, if you're going to have a monologue, make sure it fits you. I don't know how many times I've seen the 45-year-old overweight woman doing the 13-year-old monologue. It didn't work. Make sure it fits you.
One of the things that I failed to mention originally was, one thing that was said to me when I first started was to know what you can and cannot play. What are your strong points? Know I mean, I know just that at this point in my career, I have never been cast as the mom. I have never been cast as this really soft, sweet. I don't have that kind of face. I have strong, angular features. I get cast as lawyers, judges, you know, a cougar for Alan on but before I knew what it was. But, you know, I don't get cast for those. So kind of know what your face looks like and how they're going to see you. It's lovely to think they're going to cast outside of the box, but oftentimes they don't. They cast pretty true to form. So having a monologue that fits you, and just in case they ask, or if you're trying to get an agent and you don't have one yet, going in there and saying, I can do a comedic piece for you, I can do a dramatic piece for you, I can do some commercial copy for you, or if you have something cold for me, I'm right there and I'm ready to do it for you. So know how to cold read, know how to improvise if they want to see something different. So yeah, you're not married to it. Okay, good. Can you do that for me like you were 13 or 50, or to be flexible?
One of the questions I get is, should I perform to the panel, or should I perform to the camera that's recording me in the audition?
Monologues or?
Any audition.
To the reader. I mean, if you have, usually they'll put the reader right next, in a scene, right next to the camera. And oftentimes I've asked, do you want me to deliver this to the camera, or do you want me to deliver this to the reader, so that you're sure? Deliver it to the reader has been mostly, you know, the feedback I've gotten. Because you're delivering it to a person, and that person's either going to give you feedback or they're not. You're hoping they will, but you've got to create that for yourself as an actor, just in case you get that casting director or casting director's assistant who gives it back to you flat with no emotion and nothing, which happens. You've got to be able to create that for yourself. And the same thing, the one little tip that I'm going to give you on slating that I give all my students, no matter, you know, if they're 4 years old, you know, or old, is to create somebody in that camera frame who loves you and is glad to see you when you walk in the room. I don't care if it's your dog, that you deliver that with, it's just, hi, my name's Barbara Glover, that they want to know more about you. They want to hear more about you. That you actually are seeing somebody in that camera frame, not just that frame. So it makes it real, and it makes something authentic and warm come out of you. It's just a tip, but it works. And when you slate and they ask for profiles, never to put your chin down so you get a double chin, but that you look straight ahead. And as you come through, to smile at the camera before then you give them the other profile. That way they get your eyes once again, and they get your face full on once again. The longer you stay in that frame, the more they see of you. But fill it with something interesting.
I have a question about unions. Because you said that you were with SAG, would you say that it's best to wait until you absolutely have to join a union? Or yes. Is it, you know, there's always the argument of to join or not to join. Do you think it's more beneficial to join, or should you wait?
It depends on where you are in your career, what kind of credits you have. It was very important to me as a professional actor to be a member of the union. And I worked on a union film. The first film I shot was a union film, and I was able to audition for it because they didn't find what they wanted in the union actors. And I have been lucky. It does give you an amount of professionalism, but if you're not ready for that, then you're going to cut yourself out of a whole lot of work. And Arizona is a right-to-work state. There is more non-union work than there is union work here, and you don't want to cut your foot off, or your nose off to spite your face, however that goes. But so it's knowing where you are in your career, I think. For some people it is the best, for some people it's better to wait.
A lot of my friends that work in the trying to build up a resume first to get that experience before you join SAG?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, actually, the whole panel here, especially Perry and Barbara, talking about building up your resume, student films. Okay, wonderful thing to do. Would you agree?
I would. That's how you learn, and without a whole lot of risk, because a lot of times your student filmmaker doesn't know what they're doing either. I mean, that came out wrong probably, but it's a learning process for all involved, and that's how you hone your craft. And the more credits you have on your resume, the better off you are. And as you get better credits, you drop the crap. Or you drop the ones that are not as pricey.
And by the way, a little bit earlier you said we were talking about where you face the camera or the reader. Actually, I went to an audition up in Phoenix for a commercial. I was told to face the camera.
It's going to vary on the casting director and the director. So I would ask. I always ask.
They'll tell you.
They will tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say though about my take on student films. Obviously, I was in that position once, but my advice is choose your films carefully. I know that a lot of you really want to go out there. You want to get a lot of films made. You take on any roles and all that kind of stuff. But my advice is don't do that. Again, like what Barbara said, once understand who you are, what kind of roles you're going to play, and then work on those roles well. And find the projects that mean something. Even at the studio level, actors and directors have to have the meetings. Our agents have to set up the meetings before anything is signed, because they want to get a feel for me, and I want to get a feel for them. Get a feel for your directors. Make sure that they truly, absolutely love your project, that they have something to say about it. Because I'm sure a lot of you have worked with productions that, after they finish shooting, lazy to edit, they don't have time for this, blah, blah, blah. Their passion runs thin, and then they want to do another project, things like that. And where's your reel? You waste time and all that. Again, there are a lot of passionate people out there. But ultimately, you are the one who's going to have to choose. It's your career. Don't take everything that comes along. Because in the long run, it can be really damaging, because you're just kind of, running around with no direction and all that. You chose the film industry. Typecasting is okay.
And a lot of times, working as an extra on a big production, you're going to learn a lot more.
It's a different machine.
It's a different machine, exactly. But if you go in there as an extra and you watch, you don't read and, sit at the craft table with all the other extras, but you actually watch and you look to see how things are done, that's only going to make you a better actor. It's going to make you more intelligent. It's going to let you know what you need to know when you get there.
Sometimes you don't even have to be an extra. If you're just visiting a set, you learn.
True, but a lot of times they don't like a lot of visitors.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't really have a question. I wanted to say thank you for saying unique. Because it's like doing your comp card, your picture. If you don't know who you really are, what you do, and you're unique, it's free. You don't have to worry about it.
Or you have to love yourself first, right?
Yeah, more than that. But I mean, if you do what you know, kind of, then it's easier.
Actually, I have one thing I'd like Roger to talk about, because I think it's very, very important. If there's one thing I feel also that destroys a lot of acting performances, ADR. Anybody doesn't know what ADR is?
I know what it is.
Yeah. You don't know?
ADR is automatic dialogue replacement. If the location just doesn't allow for good sound to be recorded, you're going into a studio and redoing your lines. Dubbing, yeah. Okay, you can call it dubbing as well, right? Wow, how can I say this? Try to remember that feeling you had when you were on location. Of course, they're going to play the video back for you and sync up the audio, but it's not the same when you're out in, say, the forest and you're yelling because there's a bear coming at you, whereas you're in the studio and you're doing the same thing. You have to look for that, like Perry said earlier, look for that emotion, something that reminds you of either the fear or the sadness that would make you cry. Imagine yourself actually being chased by a bear. Make that same sound, make that... We're not getting your face on camera at that moment, of course, but if your emotion doesn't match what you did on location, like I said, you're going to ruin your
I had a problem with that on my film, where the ADR just did not work with the emotion that we needed, so we ended up just covering it with music, kind of like we had The Devil's Rejects, where like you can see the mouse move because they used my dialogue, and it ended up working out better, thankfully, but like when we watched the dailies that day, and it was just, I was horrified, I was mortified, I thought the whole end of the movie was ruined.
Well, luckily it wasn't. Yeah, you want to do that. Try to save that emotion and just try to relive it, put it out there, get your voice recorded on it. Yes, sir.
Speaking of dubbing, I did a lot of movies in Italy, and they dub all the movies. They shoot without sound. On the set, the director is giving you directions while you're acting and say, move over there and take a drink of wine, and then come over here while the cameras are turning. And then whatever language you speak it in your own language. And then afterwards they dub it. They have dubbing actors and extras who are professionals at that. And they dub it in every language for every market. And all the movies are made, well, this was 2 years ago. I don't know how to do it now, but that's how they did it. All without sound and all dubbed in different languages. And actors, sometimes you get one speaking one language, another speaking another language, and they're having a dialogue, and then later it all comes together. And
Absolutely. I think that's another part of your talent as an actress, is being able to relive that moment when you're in a small sound booth and you don't have that environment to stimulate that emotion. So, yes.
And then topic, Paul Pinko did a movie, and the sound came out really bad. And he redubbed the whole movie. He had to bring all the actors back. Some people came from Hollywood, and we dubbed all our lines over again.
Wow, that's expensive.
It's pretty expensive.
It's good for me, but expensive for you.
On the same vein of that, one thing as an actor you also do is voiceover work. And you learn a lot doing voiceover work in a studio from that sound guy out there who will just say to you, could you say that once, but say it smiling. And then your voice is totally different. It said smiling. And it's just little tiny things that I've learned from doing voiceover work that have helped me as an actor.
I've looked at doing voiceover work, but a lot of people, like Tucson Stage, they'll ask you to have your own recording equipment, which I don't have. So how would you go about getting into that?
They'll ask you for voiceover samples, which you can easily have made at Sound Decisions or other sound stages in Tucson. Okay. Picking 5 or 6 distinctive commercial copy that really allows for variety in your voice. 30 seconds is all 30 seconds to a minute is all you need. They're just little clippings, little snippets. Okay.
So how much is your studio per hour, Jordan? $35 an hour, so there you go. All right, last one.
Rogelio, you need a bear costume. A bear costume.
Okay, we got to wrap it up, guys. We can try to get your question on the networking.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for letting me do this. I think in closing, I would just like to, remind a lot of actors that while the director is very important on set, just remember that film is a collaboration as well. And it is okay to go up to the director when you don't feel that connection. You know, when you're not, you know, getting it, go up to him, explain to him, I'm just not feeling it. And, you know, oftentimes, you'll find that a lot of directors will go, okay, and they'll love to work with you. Unless, of course, they don't really, you know, care about the actors, which then can be a problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, ultimately, you know when the connection's going to come. So always communicate with your director as much as possible.
What's my motivation?
Right. Well, you have to ask that during shooting, probably. Okay, thank you guys.
All right, thank you, panel members, very much.